I went from prostitute, being abused, no family, no nothing, completely traumatized. Now I was responsible to give the Brazilian women a better country to live. I was bleeding so much. The tips of my fingers were blue. No one came for me. They literally let me to die.
Sara Huff, my guest today, is a conservative commentator and author known for her strong stance against feminism. Her journey from what she calls the deepest places feminism goes, with the Brazilian branch of feminist group Femen, to vocal critic of the movement has been a central theme in her public persona. Her work often explores the perceived negative consequences of feminism on women's consciousness and identity, and we will dig into those today as well. She argues that feminism manipulates women, promotes the erasure of femininity, and ultimately leads to societal decline as well. Huff is a vocal advocate now of the pro-life cause. She lives in Texas with her husband and their children. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yes. Oh, so like all good journalists, the first thing I did when I knew I was going to interview you was I went to Wikipedia to find out who is Sara. And they seem to have some holes in your story. They basically explain that you were deep in the feminist movement. They detail all of your activities in Brazil. And then very abruptly, Wikipedia says, and in 2014, she left the feminist movement. And then it's silence. So I was hoping you could fill in the gaps for us. Yeah, where did you start and how did you get here?
Of course it's silence because it's not, they don't want to tell the truth about why I left feminism because it's not interesting for people to get to know the truth. And yes, I'm suing Wikipedia, by the way.
It seems inaccurate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well. But yeah, feminism is a dangerous ideology for women. I think it's so dangerous because it seems pretty. It's like when a woman, instead of working in her skin, I like to say that it's like instead of making a very good skincare and be beautiful. Mm-hmm. She has a lot of acne and will put a lot of makeup on. That's like feminism. Feminism will use beautiful terminologies, beautiful terms like empowerment, independence, reproductive rights, all these things that it sounds awesome just to put some makeup on in a deep and very dark side of the truth, which is hating men, hating children, traumas, Satanism, many deep and occult things.
Mm-hmm. How did you get involved in feminism?
Well, I came from a very difficult upbringing. I am from Brazil. I am from São Paulo. I came from a middle-class family. I'm sounding like Kamala Harris now, but, some of us, we tell the truth.
That's right. You ended up in a different place from her, so yes. We'll keep going. Middle-class family.
Yes. And unfortunately, one of my two brothers, I am the newest, one of them got involved with drugs. And at the age of 14, he started to do some marijuana. At the age of 16, he was in cocaine. At the age of 20, he was in crack. And he turned to a very dangerous narco and a very drug dealer, and he turned into such a violent person. And I was 10 years younger than him. So when he was an adult, I still was a child. And I remember him coming to our place completely high of the drugs, under the side effects of the drugs. And he used to beat up a lot, like hitting us with punches, with kicking, like hitting us, like true battery. My mom, my dad, me, and it was true violence. And I grew up in a context where It was very hard, and I was, why do I have to suffer? And by the way, I was raised as a Catholic, so there was this conflict. Like every single Sunday, I was going to the first communion class, to the confirmation class, where my catechist was telling me that God loves you, God is your father, he loves you, he's merciful, but I was suffering.
Yeah.
So I couldn't understand. So I remember, and this is so important to say, because I remember at the age of 14, 15, I asked my teacher, why do I have to suffer? And she told me, my catechist, she told me, because this is God's will. She was right.
Yeah.
That was God's will, but that's not the right way to tell the truth to a 14-year-old who is going through such a painful moment in her life.
Do you think your catechist realized the extent of the violence that you were suffering?
I guess would, because to be very honest, I think we are living in the last decades a crisis in the church, especially in the intellectual field. People want shortcuts, and they're not studying enough to comprehend how to answer simple questions, including questions of the youth. Yeah. Sometimes youth, we have very simple, but those simple questions, they're very hard.
They're profound.
Yeah, right. Or sometimes they're kind of dummy, like dinosaurs or, something like that. But we need to learn how to manage our vocation. If you don't have a vocation to teach, don't teach. So I feel in my heart that maybe she was in the wrong place. Maybe she will be better exerting any other occupation but that. Because it was straightforward. Maybe she was in another level. She was talking about God's will. And today, with 32 years old, I love studying about God's will. But at that time, I felt like, oh, so this is God's will? So God wants me to suffer?
Right.
What have I done to God? Why he wants everybody to be happy but me? So I felt, so God hates me. And if he hates me, I'm going to hate him back. So I started to develop a kind of a hate for God. Not exactly a hate. It was like I felt that he was my father, but he didn't like me. And I want to call his attention no matter what. And that's exactly what every single feminist does. Every single feminist believes in God, even though they say they don't. And they are acting like rebel daughters towards their father. They will do anything they want to call attention of who? Christian people. They don't do things for themselves. They do things to Christian people, to Catholics, to evangelical people here, most in USA. And I was so, disappointed. And then at the age of 16, the violence from my brother kept going. And one day, he was beating on my dad so bad that I decided to intervene. But, I was just a girl. So he pulled up a gun from his shorts. He put it in my mouth. And he said if he saw me again, he will probably end my life. So he kicked out of my house. And I have to leave with relatives for a while. Then I started to live with friends from school here and there. I was already sexually active, so I started to sleep around. And at the age of 16, with no dad and no mom, and I say that because unfortunately my parents, they committed a very common mistake for families who are involved with someone and the drugs. They are, he's ill, he's ill, he's sick. We need to be patient. But I was suffering. I was out at house. And he was sick. They decided to take care of him, and I was living with relatives. I had no one anymore. And with bad behavior, no God, no parent, I ended up on the streets. And on the streets, I ended up in prostitution at the age of 16. I was already sexually active, and all the media, with movies, all this sold me the idea that, okay, I can do whatever I want with my body, my rules. If I want to make money with that, what's wrong with that, So, okay, let's do it. I need to survive anyways. I need to pay for my studies. My dream was to be the first person in my family to graduate in high school. That was my dream. That was my goal. And I will do anything necessary to do that. So I needed to pay for my books. I need to pay for everything. And I started to exchange my body for food, for places to sleep, for money here and there. And I thought that was a kind of an empowerment. I didn't know that word at the time, but I felt, I ended up exploited, raped, depressed. And at the age of 18, I finished my high school, and what do I do now? Because I was so skinny. I was so, I didn't have family, didn't have friends, nothing. In this moment of my life, I always had the habit to read news during the morning, and then that day, 10 days before I turned 18, I read like a headline on the news: feminists protest on topless in Ukraine. None of those words together make sense for me.
Right.
But that was so, it called my attention. First, I didn't know what feminist was. So I went where? Wikipedia.
Full circle.
Yes. And Wikipedia told me that it was a movement against violence against women, that it was a movement against the rape culture, that it was a movement for gender equality, that it was a movement for women's right. Coincidentally, every single thing that I was going through in that moment of my life.
Wow.
So I thought, oh my goodness, if I had met this movement before, maybe I wouldn't be in this context. So I thought, I'm a genius. Maybe if I join then, I will no longer be a victim. I will be my own hero. And that's what it called my attention. Because there was a picture. It was not Wikipedia who turned me into a feminist. It was 10 seconds looking at a picture. And this picture, it was a girl, one of the feminine girls, from an Ukrainian girl. She was protesting in Switzerland against sexism or whatever. I don't remember. But she was apparently getting bitten by a police officer, and she was looking straight to the camera, of course, with topless, with things written in her body, and she was brutally being bitten, but she was not crying. She was not making a pain face. Her facial expressions were so strong. I look at that, I stared at that picture for 10 seconds and I thought, it doesn't matter what she is, I want to be like her. I don't want to suffer anymore. I don't want any man violating my rights, my body, my emotions. I want to react. I want to be like her. That was enough for me.
Wow.
Yes. And that's how I ended up with this wish to be a feminist. So I was on hyper focus to study. I always loved to study. I was super nerd at school. And I always have this inclination to the intellectual life. So I started to study everything. And I write to them. I email them and I said, you know what? I live in Brazil. This is the 4th destination in the world for sex tourism.
Yeah.
This is terrible. I want to end that. You know what? This is considered the second country in the second worst country in the world to be born as a woman. There's a lot to be done here. And they said, awesome, let's talk through Skype. And they made like an interview with me. And they said that I had my political views were I didn't even had any political views. I had no idea what was right, left, conservative, liberal, but I had this big wish to change the world, which is called the revolutionary mind. So I had this revolutionary sense that I want to reform, rebuild the world. I want to make a safer place for women, minorities like me. So, and that's
what they were looking for.
Exactly. They were looking for someone hurt.
Yeah.
Someone in pain and suffering that they could exploit all this angerness and transform that in a wish to fight for something. So they invited me to go to Ukraine. That all happens in 2011. And then I went to Ukraine in 2012 during the Euro Cup. And they sponsor everything. I didn't even have passport at the time. They paid for my passport. They paid for my tickets. They paid for people because it was very complicated from Brazil to Ukraine. We're talking about 11 years ago. So they paid for people to transport me to there because I never even had left my state in Brazil.
And in your mind, this is like the greatest thing that ever happened, right? Like you just got plucked.
Of course.
Wow.
It was like the biggest adventure in my life. I was ready to change Brazilians' women's life. And that's the second most important thing. Every single feminist, I risk it to say, every single activist for minorities identitarian movements, they joined these movements with a good heart. They want seek for the good.
Yeah.
But they will be introduced to completely mislead or ways to do that. Completely wrong techniques, completely wrong strategies.
Yeah.
So I went to Ukraine. When I got there, I thought that I would be the only one to be there. Oh my goodness, when I got there was 40 other girls since Argentina, Mexico, Spain, United Kingdom, America.
Wow.
Germany, France, Italy, Switzerland, many different countries. We all had two things in common. We were completely traumatized with something. Basically, all of us, I don't know if I can say these things, I don't know, but all of us were victims of SA. And we had a strong sense of leadership. So I could tell now that I am an adult, I look behind and I see that they choose us. Like, they knew exactly who to pick.
Who would be the most receptive to their training
Yes.
and their agenda. What is their agenda, Femin? Is it just to sow discord? Is it what's the point of the training that they were giving you?
Well, when I talk about that, people sometimes will say, well, but it's not all feminists will be trained in Ukraine. Of course not. It's like some feminists will be trained to go out in the streets and provoke protests and disruption. That was my case. Some will be very good artists to sing or to act on Netflix or Disney Channel. Some will write books about drag queens for children. You see?
I do.
This liberal militants, global militants, there's a lot of different areas they will invest in young people to form them, to educate them according to their vocation, according to their traumas, according to what they're seeking to do. And my case, I was so disruptive. I was so angry that could be used for protest, street, to provoke disruption on the street. So they identified someone like that. So probably they said, oh, let's send to this camp and train her to do that. So that's how they co-opted me. So when I got there, there's many things that they did. The first initial ritualistic, it was very interesting. I don't have pictures here now, but I can send you. When I went to Ukraine, I looked like Marilyn Monroe. I always liked this 40s and 50s style. I had like a blonde short hair with red lipstick, very pink, very feminine. When I came back with, it was missing half of my hair.
Wow.
I was completely masculinized. I don't know how to say
you did it
that.
masculinized, yeah. Right.
So the very first thing that they made us to do, it was pick all of our belongings that were very feminine and set a fire on it.
Whoa.
Yes. It's not that we could not wear it. It's very subversive. So sometimes they taught us, if you need to seduce someone, wear it, use it. You are allowed to manipulate. But this will be a tool to lead your fight to the revolution. What they call revolution is this perfect world that now we were responsible to fight for, to install, to build. So women, minorities will feel free, safe, and happy.
No more suffering.
Exactly.
That was your question, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Who doesn't
Why am I
want
suffering,
that?
right?
Who doesn't want that? So they know how to sell this idea. So it was super cool. Can you imagine? We were like, and setting fire on it.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Right.
But then things started to turn darker. One of the first impressions I had, Ukraine is a very, very, I don't know now, but 12 years ago, my first impression was a very, very extremely poor country. I could see with my own eyes what communism does with a nation.
Right.
It was so poor that Kyiv, the capital, just had one McDonald's, and they even had beef. It was just mac chicken and mac fish, because beef is so expensive there. The population didn't even have access to it. As I'm telling, I don't know now, because things changed.
After war.
Yeah, I don't know if it's better or worse. Who knows? With so much money we're putting there, or who knows?
Right.
But they're very miserably poor. But Feminist office was located in the fanciest place in downtown Kyiv, where the transnational companies are. And it was so rich.
Wow.
So rich. The discrepancy about the rest of the country and the office was, wow.
So strange, right?
It was. So I could tell that someone was putting a lot of money on in there.
Do you know today who was backing?
No. Because as I was like super freshman, I I asked them, and they told me that they were selling T-shirts and like souvenirs, and they were making. They said they were making $20,000 every month selling souvenirs, and it was 20,000. I'm not good in math,
right? That's all right.
But I was like a $20,000 in souvenirs every month. Of course, they were very popular, but I was, if that's what they're telling me, it's probably, and at that time I was so excited that I didn't even.
Yeah, you don't think about what's going on.
What I thought was
cool.
Well, I'm very like fresh here. They're not going to tell me, and I'm not going to insist because it's going to be very inconvenient. I'm not part of the business, so I would just keep quiet before they say something. And the following days, one of the other activities that they made us to do, it was stripped down completely. We had to be completely naked in a like in a military position, like this, straight like this, stand up. And we needed to say in our language, I cannot say that here, but we need to say in our language, looking straight ahead, I am a SLUT. And at the beginning, that was horrible.
Yeah.
Because there's no many other worse words that you can call women.
Right.
And you know what? It wasn't the feminine girls, the Ukrainian girls who were training us. It were 3 people, 2 men, 1 woman, 2 men, 1 woman. And they were Russian. They were in Ukraine. Because I had studied a little bit of Ukrainian to talk to them, but they were always speaking Russian all the time. And I realized I don't know their name still nowadays because they never told us. They were always giving orders to the feminine girls. And the feminine girls were giving order to us. So I know they were kind of leaders. And so we stood up like that for over 4 hours. And in the beginning, whoever was laughing, they will hit us. Slapping our faces. So we were there to train, receiving a training to fight against violence against women. But we were being beat up.
You're being
by
assaulted.
men. Yes.
Right. What was the purpose of this ritual? It's like
it's something very, it's
ritual.
very military. It's very militarized. I think the purpose, it was, you have to obey us. As teaching.
You lose your agency, you lose your self-respect, and you become a cog.
They were dehumanizing us because we weren't allowed to go out to use the restroom. Some of us will pee ourselves. After almost 5 hours doing that, at the beginning it was so weird. Everyone has to repeat that in their own language. After almost 5 hours, it sounded natural. It sounded cool. So I can't say that they completely deformed that meaning, the meaning of that word, and they made a new term in our head. In another situation, they made us hug each other, and we had to look in each other's eye and say, I love you, you are my comrade. I will do everything for you, but for the revolution, I can kill you.
Oh my goodness. It's so warped.
And we had to repeat and repeat and repeat.
Right.
We had to sleep all together. There were, excuse me, we need to sleep all together. And there was this huge, giant radio, like the size of a wall. And while we were sleeping, and sometimes during the day, there was this shh. Every time that we questioned, there was so much lies, but we were so dumb that we were just accepting everything. They said, oh, this is just a no radio to communicate because the police is always trying to arrest us, so we cannot communicate. Only in 2020, I met a specialist in intelligence and counterintelligence that sat with me and said, Sarah, that was actually something called iDozer. That is waves, the sound waves that will produce the same effects the drugs will cause in your brain. So we were under effects of drugs, but through
the sound.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So this is a classic Marxist re-education camp that you're in. And you're brought there, all this fanfare, there's all this money. And when you leave, how have you changed?
Oh, completely, because
Besides the hair.
Completely, because they told us all the time that now we were soldiers of this revolution and we had the responsibility to build a world that will be better to receive all the youth, all the minorities, all the women. So we were carrying that responsibility and we were happy by that because we had no family, we had no one. Now we had each other. So we kind of have friends and family. We were each other's family. And we had a sense of life because we didn't have that. Of course,
you have a purpose and a cause.
Exactly. And they taught us other stuff, of course, how to protest, they taught us how to talk to the media. We got a lot of media trainings, how to speak well, how all this. And somehow they had access to all the world mass media because when I landed in Brazil, I was a superstar celebrity.
Just like that?
Just like that.
Wow.
I came to be the biggest political celebrity in my country. And it wasn't because of me. I did nothing. I had done nothing. They did everything. They were friends or partners with all the most famous press agencies like Reuters, Alliance France Press, EFE, all of them.
Wow.
So
you land and you're a feminist celebrity activist.
I went from a prostitute, being abused, no family, no nothing, completely traumatized. Now I was responsible to give the Brazilian women a better country to live.
Wow.
So my self-esteem was wow. And besides that, I was making a lot of money because they were paying me to make protests. Yes, I was being sponsored. They were giving me a lot of dollars to do that. They were giving me money as paycheck every week. And they were giving me money to recruit other girls, to pay for a place, like a headquarter, and to travel. And I started to get invited for all the most famous Brazilian TV shows, radios. And it hurts to say that I was part of this Brazilian pop culture during 5 years. And I was always receiving orders like, you have to talk about this, you have to protest against this, and mostly they will ask me to protest against the Catholic Church because Brazil is a Catholic country.
Right.
And the culture there is very Catholic, even though I will say not most, but I don't know the percentage, but many Catholics don't go to church. It's like they're baptized, but they don't go. I call them baptized pagans.
Yeah.
So
right, yeah.
Still, so they taught me that the Catholic Church was the reason why patriarchy exists. It's the reason, and patriarchy, it is this entity that oppressed women, including me.
Yeah, it's why you suffered.
Exactly.
Right, because of the patriarchy.
And I was already mad.
Right.
With God. So it was just 1 + 1 = 2. I had everything I wanted. So I did a lot of protests against the Catholic Church because I was mad. I was obeying orders, but I was also mad. And I was believing that. And they started to ask me to protest about abortion, a lot about abortion, because abortion in Brazil is not legal. And they wanted to make it legal.
I remember this.
Legal.
Wow.
Yes.
And so part of your mission was to bring abortion.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, to Brazil.
Yes, because when they want to legalize abortion in any country, they will. This global militants, they have all this different arms. So it's let's go to the TV shows, talk about it, be popular, and let's go to the streets and make protests too. The protests will not convince the politicians. This is more a lobby thing, but will change the population, the citizens' mind. It will call the attention for this matter. So it was my duty.
Wow. So how did you go from that to wearing Our Lady of Guadalupe on your shawl today? How did God break through into your heart?
Oh, well, some people will change by love, some will change by pain. I guess I changed by both. As I was telling you, they were asking me a lot to protest in favor of abortion. And coincidentally, in the same time, I got pregnant. At the age of 22, I got pregnant. And of course, my body, my rules, I will sleep around with any criteria. Of course, the man will not be there for me or for any other woman.
Right.
So I told my friends, I'm pregnant. And they said, are you insane? You're the most famous feminist in Brazil. You have to get an abortion. Besides that, whatever is inside your belly, it's not a human, it's not a child, it's not a baby, it's just a clump of cells, it's just a blood clot, it's just, all these expressions that they use to dehumanize the baby.
It's just a potential life. It's just a potential human.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. It's just a thing. So let us help you. And one of them, it was an abortionist, very experienced. And she said, I'm going to help you and I will give you the pills. And this is a disclaimer. So abortion in Brazil is not legal, although it's very easy to get.
You can get one.
Yeah, you can get one. Especially if you have friends, and this is the second disclaimer is I got an abortion, and the abortion I got, it was the same. It was a chemical abortion, which feminists like to say and scream that it's so safe, and the World Health Organization will recommend. They will give you the pills. They will send you home. It was the same abortion that the Democratic
Party,
the Democratic Party was giving women outside of their event. So this was the abortion I had. So same pills, same assistance. It was not legal, but it was the same.
Yeah.
So they told me exactly how to take. They told me you will feel some cramps like like
Heavy period. That's what
period
they say,
and
right?
all that. So I went back home. I was alone, and nobody actually told me the truth. And to be very honest with you, every time after having an abortion, every single time I see a woman saying, I had an abortion, and she's fighting for it, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You know why I don't believe it? Because it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts pretty bad. No one, it seems feminists, they think having an abortion is like having a, what is the name of the stick that witches or fairies they had? And
Their wand.
They won. They think it's like doing poof, and the baby is gone.
Right.
The way they talk, that was the way I used to talk. But the way they talk, it seems like that the baby was just disappear. They never even considered that the same way the baby came in, now it has to come out. They never thought that the pills, I don't even like to say the name of the, to not promote it, but the pills, they will cause you birth contractions.
Right.
And you will have to deliver. No one will tell you that. No feminists, they even know that. They don't know that. They don't know what they're defending. They don't know what they're fighting for, because I spent 4 years before I have an abortion defending that, and I had no clue what it was defending. Until I got one, it was 6 hours of excruciating birth pain. It was delivering. It's labor pain. It doesn't matter the size. Your uterus will contract in the same way. You will have to go through a birth. You will have to go to labor, no matter what. The difference is you can go to labor to deliver a healthy, beautiful, alive baby, or a baby that will be dead. And that was my case. Because when I finally look inside, deep inside of the toilet, there was not a clump of cells. There was not a blood clot. It was my daughter. No one told me that. How could I not know that? It was some simple biology. How can they school dumbed me down so much like that? How? How can a 22-year-old not know that? I didn't. And they don't. And then they said that I will bleed for a few days. But that bleeding never stopped. It never stopped. And it was actually increasing. And 10 days after that, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was having a severe bleeding. I was bleeding so much. The tips of my fingers were blue. I was shaking. I was sweating. I had fever. I was puking. I had this pain. It was burning inside me. Like as I had a piece of hell inside me. The smell that was coming out of my body was terrible, like a rotten smell. I knew I was about to die. I called all my feminist friends, like 7, 8, 9. They said, "You're right, your friend, you're our comrade, we're coming to you." I waited an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I was passing out, waking up, passing out, waking up. No one came for me. They literally let me to die. With my last strength, I screamed so loud. The only one who came for me was my neighbor. He literally kicked the door down. He rescued me. He put me inside his car. He drove me to the hospital. He saved my life.
Wow.
That neighbor. I hated that neighbor, you know. You know why I hated that neighbor? Because he was white. You know why I hated that neighbor? Because he was a man. You know why I hated that neighbor? Because he was a Catholic man. But it was that Catholic man and not my feminist friends who saved my life. For 6 months, I lived there as her neighbor. I hated him every single day of my life, of those 6 months.
Wow.
I looked at his wife many times. 5 kids? Impossible. He is forcing her to be a reproductive, I don't know, slave.
Yeah.
To his heritage. I don't know. I look at her. So modest clothes. No cleavage. No butt cheeks. How? Because I was living real. It's pretty hot. No bikini. He's oppressing her. I couldn't conceive in my feminist mind that woman was choosing to live like that and she was happy. I was the miserable one. She was happy all that time. And I will never forget. I was really bad. I was bleeding. I was puking. I was passing out and waking up. But I remember her voice in the car with him praying the rosary for my life. They led me to the hospital. I was really bad. I bled so much. They had to resurrect me. Resurrect me?
Resuscitate
me. Not Christ, I'm sorry.
You will resurrect one day by the grace of God, but that was resuscitation.
Resuscitate me.
Yeah. Wow.
I spent some hours in coma, but I spent weeks in the intensive care unit. They paid for all my bills in the hospital.
The couple did?
Yes.
Wow.
They spent all their savings. All their savings.
Oh my goodness.
During 6 months, they took care of me as I was their own daughter. Because I needed rehabilitation. I needed physical therapy. I was really bad. Besides that, I developed post-abortion syndrome, which is something that the feminists, they usually say that doesn't exist. How can they invalidate something that another woman went through? Because I went through that. And it was bad. I used to have nightmares with pieces of baby that was coming out of my body and I was trying to put them back. Even when I was awake, I used to hear this baby crying and crying and crying in my head. In my place, in the street, on the pharmacy, everywhere. I started to drink. I almost turned into an alcoholic because when I was drunk, I couldn't hear it anymore.
Right.
I couldn't see, I couldn't look at babies with their mothers or children toys, children clothes. Started to cry and cry and cry. I was so depressed. Anxiety, so many nightmares. I developed like self-harm. I started to cut myself.
Yeah.
I made a tattoo for that. I thought maybe if I do a tattoo, I would stop cutting myself, but it didn't work. I started to cut myself because I hated me. All my breast, my belly, my legs, they're full of self-harm scars because I hated me. I was bad. I was thinking about, I started to sleep around with other men because I didn't want to be alone, because I was feeling sad and I didn't want to be alone. I basically turned into a prostitute again, but I was not exchanging my body for money. I was exchanging my body for company. But I was thinking about suicide, but from all this darkness, God made some light. Because 6 months after, I almost passed because an abortion, that used to be safe, that it should be safe. I got pregnant again.
Wow.
And I got pregnant again, and that was a miracle. You know why? Because when I was in the intensive care unit, the doctor said, you can't have babies anymore.
Because the damage had been so...
The damage was too much. What actually happened to me was the same thing that happened with Amber Thurman. I got a huge sepsis. What happened to me, it was a huge plan. I told the story so many times, but it still hurts. Because I didn't have a family, so they were my family for me, my feminist friends. But they weren't my friends, they were my comrades, and there's a difference.
Right.
Remember, we hugged ourselves and we said, I love you, I can do everything for you, but for the revolution, I can kill you. That's exactly what happened. So at that time in Brazil, they were trying to legalize abortion. And the most famous feminist in Brazil got pregnant.
It was you.
Perfect factoid for the press. So they told me, you have to have an abortion. That's going to help us with all the news and everything. But abortion is not legal, right, in Brazil. They knew I had to have a DNC. A DNC. Nobody told me that. The abortionist who gave me the pills, she performed at that time over 700 abortions.
Oh my goodness.
She knew exactly what she was doing. She never told me that I had to have a DNC.
She just gave you the pills.
Yes.
Right.
That's why they never came to help me. Can you imagine how easy it will be to legalize abortion if the most famous political celebrity in Brazil will die by having illegal abortion?
That's so sick.
That's what they did to me.
That's what they thought they would do to you.
Yeah.
But you survived.
I did.
And then you got pregnant again.
And God gave me a second chance.
And you have the baby.
I do. He's 9 years old now.
That's amazing.
Yes, he's my second chance.
Yeah.
And I got pregnant, and I realized it took me many years, many therapy, many discussions with people who specialize in geopolitics, intelligence, counterintelligence, to figure out what happened to me. Because it's not an easy story.
No.
And but I realized that I couldn't have my second chance being there anymore. So I said, you know what? I'm going to disappear. So I just decided I'm leaving my pregnancy. And that's what I did. And I moved away from all that. And it was not easy because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what to do. I always wanted to go to college, but I didn't make it because I was doing activism.
Right.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't have family. I didn't have friends. And then I thought, you know what? I have a family and I have a friend. He's inside me. And God gave me a baby boy. So I could not be a feminist anymore.
That's right. You can't hate your son.
No, I can't. He's not a potential rapist like the feminists will call every man.
He's a baby who needs his mom.
Exactly.
Right?
And you know what was the craziest and most beautiful thing? I didn't have a single penny because I quit.
Mm-hmm.
And they were financing me. That was my job. And when I quit, I didn't have any money. And I started to look for normal jobs, like phone call jobs. But I was super pregnant. Who will give me a job like that? Nobody. So when Hector, this is my son's name, when Hector was born, I was so poor. And you know who helped me? The pro-life movement.
Oh my goodness.
They helped me. The same movement that during 5 years of my life, I hated them. I persecuted them. They were my nemesis. I debated against them so many times. They gave me diapers. They gave me food. They gave Hector clothes. They gave me clothes. They paid 1 year of our rent of our apartment. They told me, you know, girl, you're smart. They paid 1 year of my college tuition.
Wow.
They sent me to college. They gave me everything, and they gave me psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, everybody to work on me to fix all the damage that the feminist movement caused on me as a woman. And finally, when I started to walk with my own feet, then it was my time to start helping. And then I started to tell my story.
Yeah.
But it was not easy because the backlash they faced by the feminist movement, all the liberals, oh, that was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard.
I can only imagine. So when did you, where in that did you reconcile with God? Like where in your becoming a mother and getting back on your feet and actually becoming a strong mother and woman in your own right, how did God the Father come back to you?
I think when I realized that I was pregnant again, I thought that I would be scared. But the weirdest thing is that I was so happy. Why I was happy? I was so scared of babies, and now I had another one inside me. I was so happy. And I said, this is a miracle, because the doctor said, I'm sorry, you cannot have babies anymore. I lost one of my fallopian tubes.
Oh, wow.
And I said, how is that possible? I said, this is a little miracle. Some nasty feminists call my son a medical error. But I like to call him Little Miracle.
That's amazing.
And I started to think about that and think about the situation and see, I felt in my heart, it was the grace of God. I felt in my heart a wish, a desire to come back. But I was so embarrassed because during 5 years, I was the public #1 enemy of the Catholic Church in my country. And, you know, I had this short blonde hair, almost white hair, tattoos. Everyone in the street will recognize me. I was really popular. I couldn't go to a church. They will probably think that I will be trying to protest.
You were protesting.
Yes.
Right.
So I was really embarrassed. It's not something that I can go and, you know, I didn't know what to do. So Then we moved to actor's birth. I decided that I wanted to go back to the church. I didn't know how, but I wanted to do something for my daughter on heaven. I wanted to do a penitence. And I told my OBGYN, I don't want any epidural. I don't want any anesthesia, anything, because I went through that pain to give death. Now I want to go through that pain to give birth, to give life. So please, doesn't matter what I say, because giving birth hurts. It hurts a lot. So it doesn't matter what I say, even if I ask, don't give it to me. I wrote I made like a little document, don't give it to me, please.
Right.
But, however, although when I was in the birth land, oh goodness. I said, you know what? Give me the epidural.
Give me the drugs.
Yeah. You said, and he said, but you said, she said, you said that you didn't want, I don't care. Just go. So I was really mean to her. So she left and she was going to search for someone to give me. So in this moment, everything stopped. And I remember to see gold particulars in the air. And I saw a woman. So a woman came, she grabbed my hand and she said, what are you doing? She was kind of mad, like a coach voice. Like, what are you doing? You can do that. What about your penitence? You told you will do it. I trust you. You can do it. Come on, you can do it. Your life is going to change and your pain is going to go away. You can do it. Come on. Okay. Then comes my OBGYN and I say, go away with the epidural.
No drugs.
And she was, what the heck is going on? And then 5 minutes later, Hector just, he was born.
Who do you think the woman was?
Well, I was asking me that for, nobody believed me. They said what is the name of that in English when you're under
delirious,
drug, yeah, hallucination.
Yeah.
That was hallucination. You were under a lot of pain. So I got mad and I stopped trying to convince people about that. So it just, okay, I'm not talking about that anymore. So I decided to go back to the church and I needed help. I didn't have anyone to help me. So I decided to do the most humiliating thing ever and the most humble thing ever. And I decided to record a video asking for forgiveness for every single Christian. When I say Christian, I say everyone. Catholics, Christians, because in America, people understand Christians as evangelicals, and that's kind of different in Brazil for us. So we understand Christians for everybody who believes in Christians, and we are included. We are included.
As we should be. Yes. We are Christian. Yes.
So it was a 10-minute video asking for forgiveness for every single protest that I made and asking for help to come back to the Catholic Church. And I was really embarrassed. And I published on YouTube.
Oh my goodness.
And I went to...
You did a classic public confession, like old school, early ancient church. Yes. Public confession.
I went to bed the other day. Oh my goodness. The world was... Wow. The video was... We're talking about 2014. Oh my goodness, 10 years ago. Yes, we're talking about 10 years ago. So YouTube, it was not that viral as it is today. So in 12 hours, my video had over 100,000 views and over 4,000 comments.
Oh my goodness.
And the comments were saying, we forgive you.
Oh.
We forgive you. That was awesome. It was awesome. It was awesome. The Christian forgiveness is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a priest, and he said, I want to help you. I want to send you a gift. Please send me your address. And this is he is Priest John. He is my spiritual director until nowadays.
Wow.
Yes. And he sent me a painting. And when he sent me this painting, I opened and I saw, it's her. It was the woman.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was the woman. It was her.
That's, oh my goodness.
She was the one who helped me. It was this woman I saw. And she was there in the painting.
Oh my goodness.
And I started to cry. I kneeled down and started to cry. I said, I wanted to tell my OBGYN, I told you no one will believe me. But she was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt kind of ignorant because I didn't know the Virgin of Guadalupe because she's not popular in Brazil.
Oh, wow.
We have our own Virgin Mary title, which is, I have no idea how to say that in English, but in Portuguese it's Nossa Senhora Aparecida.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, as it's not popular, I never saw her before, but It was her. And it was such an honor because she is the title of the Virgin who take care of the unborn babies. And I said, okay, that's it. I know I am in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
I know I am coming back to home. And I almost freaked out to choose the outfit for today.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't have much clothes for winter time.
Because you came from Texas to Connecticut.
And I was from Brazil. I was
from
from Brazil and I'm living in Houston now. So I don't have much, a winter undergarment.
Oh my goodness.
And I just look at this. You look back at me and say, okay, that's it.
That's the right.
Yeah,
it wasn't the right choice.
It wasn't
You
planned.
made the right choice. This is good. This is good. Oh my goodness.
So that's how I came back. And the pro-life movement helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They took me to my first confession, and that was hilarious. It was tragic and hilarious because I was very ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh my goodness, the priest said, okay, it's time to confess all your sins since your last confession. Well, it took 6 hours.
Oh my goodness.
But it's not my fault. He said all your sins.
All sins.
Since my last confession, it was probably when I was 13.
Wow.
And I was at that time, I don't know, 23 or 24.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And you'd been through a lot.
Yes.
A lot of water had gone under the bridge, as we say in America. Wow.
But it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Just the weight. Because you'd received forgiveness on all the comments, but then to receive forgiveness and absolution from God, like, it's just amazing. And here you are. So after your confession and coming back to the church, do you feel a sense of a new purpose? What would you say is your mission now?
I think my first mission is to be a mother and a wife.
Mm-hmm.
Is something that I truly loves. And after that, I think I wouldn't leave everything I lived for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe in God's will. I understand now what I couldn't understand when I was 14. And I'm very obedient to His will. So I go whatever He wants me to go. And I think I'm sure he wants me to tell my story.
Mm-hmm.
And my mission is to tell women, you know what? You can succeed. You can be happy with no need to put yourself under an ideological umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to empower yourself. You are already powerful.
Mm-hmm.
God made all women with power, but our power is completely different from men's power. The problem nowadays is women, they're trying to be powerful using the power of men. They want to conquer spaces that men are good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us, a minority, we can, but most of us, we will not be, and that's okay. That's completely okay.
Mm-hmm.
Men, they will not be good, the majority of them, and thinks that we are good, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Women are completely misled by idea of equality, and I think one of my missions is debunked this word. Equality is not always good.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, you cannot say that. Yes, but that's true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, an example, in my city, it was not in my city, it was in the city right next to mine. That happened in 2013, but it was so awesome. It was the city administration needed more workers for building, like what is the name of that? Vocabulary problems now.
Understood.
The public construction.
Public construction.
Yeah,
infrastructure.
Public, yeah, infrastructure. And by the Brazilian law, if you're opening public works, you have to open opportunities for men and women. It doesn't matter if you're not a private company. If it's public, you have to give the same opportunity for men and women. If they're gonna pass the test, it doesn't matter, but you have to. So men and women applied, and there was 2 phases for the test. The first one, it was a written test to prove that you know what you're talking, like your degrees and etc. The second phase of the test was carrying a pack of cement.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
I don't know pounds. I just know kilograms. It was 50 kilograms. I don't know how much that in pounds. It's heavy. It's a pack of cement for a block. They couldn't.
Yeah.
For the man was super easy, but you know, the women, they couldn't. The only one who could go into the end, she passed out. And then they decided to sue the city administration because it wasn't fair. Well, that is equality.
Right.
That's the perfect, they had the same opportunity. And that's the perfect example why we cannot treat everyone equal. You cannot say that either. Yes, I can. We cannot treat everybody equal. We cannot treat a baby as we treat a teenager. We cannot treat our grandma as we treat our best friend. We cannot treat our parents as we treat our teacher. We cannot treat I don't know. You cannot treat a cat as you treat a dog. It's not going to work. You cannot treat someone who is sick like someone who is not sick. You cannot treat a woman as you treat a man. It's not going to work. And women are trying so hard to be equal as men that they're ended up completely depressed with high rates of depression, anxiety, suicide, divorce, many things. It's terrible. I think my main mission is tell women we can be happy, we can succeed if we accept our nature.
Our femininity. Right. Well, and you have the most powerful woman in the world on your shawl, Our Lady of Guadalupe. That's just what a beautiful story. And I hope that everyone who hears your story just rejoices in the mercy of God and the beauty of how he created us, male and female. And I think that, listening to your trajectory there, from the moment you saw that photograph of the girl being bitten by the police officer and being so strong, it's like she was like a shadow of the martyrs, right? That strength that we see in like portraits of Joan of Arc or Our Lady, but she was a negative, like a photographic negative of that.
You know what
But you
happened to her?
respond to it. What happened to that girl?
She killed herself.
Oh.
She killed herself. Her name was Oksana Sashko. She killed herself in 2017 or 2017. Before she died, she wrote a letter, and then it was more like a note. It was written, "You are all fake."
So in the end, she saw it too.
So it's the women who led me to the feminist and to liberal way. She realized she wasn't that lucky as I was, not because of that, but she was an atheist. When she realized that everything was fake, she killed herself. And I met her. I've been with her in Ukraine. Wow. She was beautiful. She was truly convinced that she could change the world. And it hurts that so many, like right now, what's happening right now, half of American women are freaking out because Trump won the election and they're thinking they will lose rights or whatever, and they are truly freaking out.
Right, they really are hurt.
Yeah, it's like a collective hysteria, and they truly think there's something evil and bad will gonna happen to them. No, it will not. You will probably be a little bit better than you were. So, yeah, we need to tell women that there is a way to help other women, and there is a way to be happy, and we don't need ideologies for that. Look, who's the most famous woman in this world? The Virgin Mary. Who's the most relevant woman in this world? The Virgin Mary. What she did she was a big CEO of she wasn't. No, she just obeyed. She just obeyed God's will. That's all she did. And she's the most relevant woman in the world history. Maybe we should learn more from her.
Amen. I will leave it on that.